What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing. The Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series is going to take a look at Iron Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. Now, Michael Spinks was a member of the 1976 Olympic Games. He went on to become unified light heavyweight champion. And then, in 1985, he challenged Larry Holmes for the IBF strap. Mike Spinks won on a controversial decision, and then he turned around and gave up the belt, basically, by getting out of the HBO tournament to fight Stefan Tanstead and then Jerry Cooney. Mike Tyson was a runner-up for the 1984 Olympic trials before he got beat up by Henry Tillman. He turned professional in 1985 with a knockout of Hector Mercedes. He went on to become the unified champion in a heavyweight division. So this fight here was built up to become, once and for all, fight of the century. It was scheduled for Atlantic City Boardwalk in 1988. So let's take a look at Iron Mike Tyson's career leading up to the fight with Michael Spinks. Here you have Mike Tyson. He was an honorary member of the Olympic trials in 1984. And everyone was for certain that he would be part of that Olympic team. Here you have the road to the gold, the killer profiles on Olympic hopefuls. And you can see Mike Tyson. He had won the 1983 Nationals. To be a part of that Olympic trials. Now he went up to super heavyweight. And I'll get into that a little further. But he was a heavyweight. He went to super heavyweight and went back down to heavyweight and back up to super heavyweight. Let's take a look as to why that happened. Now here you see, this is the amateur national ratings for 1983 going into 1984. And at super heavyweight, you see Terrell Biggs from Philadelphia was ranked number 1. Craig Payne was ranked number 2. Mike Tyson was ranked number 3. Tyson was from Catskills, originally from Brooklyn. Camille Odom. He stopped some fighters. He was a spoiler, ruined their careers. But as you can see here, Mike Tyson was scheduled to face Craig Payne. But the reason why they kept moving him up and down was because they were trying to create slots to build a team. And Mike Tyson didn't really fit in because Terrell Biggs was a master boxer. Craig Payne was a very, very big hopeful for that team. And as you look down the heavyweight division, you see Henry Tillman. Henry Tillman was out of Los Angeles, but he was another master boxer. You had Henry Milligan, another good fighter. So you had a lot of good fighters at that time, but that wasn't Mike Tyson's biggest problem. As we go down to light heavyweight, see Vander Holyfield was ranked number 2, but Ricky Womack was ranked number 1. That's where the problem was. Ricky Womack was a big hopeful for the heavyweight division. He was expected to win gold in the heavyweights. But because of the fighters you had up here with Henry Tillman, number 1 at heavyweight, and Terrell Biggs, number 1 at super heavyweight, they thought it would be perfect for Ricky Womack to be light heavyweight. So he had to face Evander Holyfield, in that division. And Evander Holyfield and Ricky Womack fought 3 times because Holyfield didn't win a national title. So he wouldn't have been qualified for the Olympic team. So he fought it out with Ricky Womack. They had 3 fights. And Holyfield wound up winning and placed himself on that team. So Mike Tyson couldn't fight Greg Payne. Terrell Biggs did, and Terrell Biggs won the super heavyweight. So Mike Tyson had no choice but to go back down to heavyweight and face Henry Tillman. And we know how that turned out. So here you have Henry Tillman, who wound up becoming a gold medalist as a heavyweight on that team. And here you have Mike Tyson, who wound up turning professional in 1985 and having his first fight with Hector Mercedes. And let's just have a little fun and take a little tour and see who else was on that team while we're here. Bernard Gray, outstanding fighter, very good featherweight. Floyd Favors, very good fighter. He was ranked number 1 for at least 2 to 3 years. Jesse Benavides, outstanding fighter, Corpus Christi, Texas. As we go up to light welterweight, Jerry Page, phenomenal amateur fighter. Mildred Taylor, ranked number 4, Philadelphia. As you go up to welterweight, you're going to find Mark Breland, who was ranked number 1. Mark Breland was a 6-time Golden Glove champion. He was a national champion, and he wound up winning a gold medal as a welterweight. Unfortunately, he lost his title to Marlon Starling, re-won it, and then lost it again to Aaron Davis. So you had a lot of John David Jackson, ranked number 10, Seattle, Washington. Dennis Milton, outstanding, Bronx, light middleweight. Julian Jackson dusted him off. Frank Tate, he was a light middleweight. He wound up fighting Michael Nunn several times in the amateurs. So Frank Tate wound up becoming a gold medalist in the Olympic Games, beating out Michael Nunn. Here you have Michael Nunn, middleweight. Michael Nunn was ranked number 7, Davenport, Iowa. And here you have ranked number 2, Virgil Hill. Virgil Hill will become a light heavyweight champion. Michael Nunn will become a middleweight champion and a super middleweight champion. So that was the story on that Olympic team. So here you have Mike Tyson versus Terrell Biggs. Now the reason why this fight was significant because Mike Tyson had already lost to Henry Tillman. Terrell Biggs was a gold medalist on that Olympic team as a super heavyweight. But the problem was Terrell Biggs had a similar style as Henry Tillman. But Mike Tyson's career has changed. He learned a great deal since then. And this buildup was Muhammad Ali being Terrell Biggs and Joe Frazier being Mike Tyson. That was the hype going into this fight. Let's take a look at the results. Now, as you can see, Mike Tyson, champion at this point, and Terrell Biggs. Now, Terrell Biggs, his claim to fame was when he knocked out Ronaldo, Mr. Snipes, in Madison Square Garden. A month previous, He had broken his collarbone in a car accident. But then he knocked out David Bay, and that's what got him the opportunity to face Mike Tyson. And we take a look here. Now, this fight right here was over before it even started, because Mike Tyson took away Terrell Biggs' weapon. Terrell Biggs' weapon was the jab and movement. And as you can see, how he took it away was with his own jab. He kept putting a lot of pressure on Terrell Biggs. And as you can see here, Terrell Biggs leaning back, and Mike Tyson firing the right hand and constantly using the left hand. And this was unexpected of Mike Tyson because he couldn't do that with Henry Tillman. You can see here Terrell Biggs on his back foot constantly. You see his right leg behind him, his left leg straight out, and his upper body in a leaning backwards position. Mike Tyson was consistently on Terrell Biggs. You can see here Mike Tyson with the left hook, driving Terrell Biggs back to the ropes. That was the key in this fight. You see over here Mike Tyson with the body work. In every photo you see, Mike Tyson is doing the attacking. This is what he learned from the defeat of Henry Tillman. More evidence here of what went on this fight. Mike Tyson consistently putting steady pressure on Terrell Biggs. It was just a matter of time at this point. You have Tony Orlando looking on for the safety of Terrell Biggs. Trying to get as many rounds out of this fight as possible. Get their fans their money's worth. Once again, you see Mike Tyson with the jab, pushing Terrell Biggs back. He did this consistently, very well. And if it wasn't the jab, it was a left hook. But always forward motion. Terrell Biggs just couldn't take the pressure. Succumbed to it. 7 rounds later, Terrell Biggs found himself down and out. Now it looks like main events, the Duva team knew that he didn't have a chance with Mike Tyson. They were trying to get that last payday. You see Lou Duva coming in to aid Terrell Biggs. Tony Orlando waves off the fight. It was a complete massacre. Here you see the headlines. Butcher job. Tyson TKOs Biggs in 7 to keep the crown. Yeah, this fight was a complete slaughter. Took place in December 1987. Here you see, awesome when it counts. That was a brutal fight for Terrell Biggs. Now here you have Mike Tyson on the cover of Ring Magazine, February 1986. Mike Tyson, at this point, was the savior of boxing. Because before Mike Tyson, you just had a bunch of heavyweights exchanging those titles back and forth. Nobody was in shape. You didn't have that guy. So Mike Tyson came along at the right time. And here you have Mike Tyson, the story of boxing. Mike Tyson was the new generation. Everybody was expecting high things from Mike Tyson at this point. Couldn't do any wrong. But behind the scenes, Mike Tyson was going through a lot. He was a young man at this point. He just turned 19 years old. From Brooklyn. He already had a lot of rage in him. So he was sneaking out of Catskills, coming down to New York, going to the clubs, getting himself caught up. But he was still knocking everybody out at this point. Now here you see Mike Tyson. And they give you a little bit of his profile. But let's take a look at this point of his career. His opponents. You see, at this point, Kevin Rooney is his trainer. Teddy Atlas was his previous trainer. They had issues. Teddy Atlas was told to leave the gym by Customato. But as you can see here, his professional debut was March 6, 1985. His first opponent was Hector Mercedes, got KO'd in 1 round. April 10th, Trent Singleton, that was in Albany, KO'd him in 1 round. May 23rd, Don Haplin, that was in Albany, KO'd him in 4 rounds. June 20th, Ricardo Spain, Atlantic City, killed him in 1 round. Now see, at this point, this is a big deal for Mike Tyson because Atlantic City was the place to be at this point in time. July 11th, John Alderson, Atlantic City, killed him in 2 rounds. July 19th, Larry Sims, Poughkeepsie in New York, killed him in 3 rounds. August 15th, Lorenzo Kennedy, Atlantic City, killed him in 1 round. September 5th, Michael Jack Johnson, Atlantic City, killed him in 1 round. I was at that fight. Jack Johnson went from one corner to the middle of the ring from a left hook. It was phenomenal. I mean, I personally have never seen anything like it. And I was fortunate that I was actually watching the fight. I didn't, get a sip of soda or anything. I was looking at the entire fight and I saw the whole thing. And they kept replaying it on a big screen. It was amazing, amazing. October 9th, Donnie Long, Atlantic City, killed him in 1 round. Now, Donnie Long was a prospect at one point. He had fought James Broad, and James Broad was a prospect back in like 82. And it was a real test for Mike Tyson. But Tyson got him out of there in 1 round. Donnie Long has been off for 2 years before that fight. But it was still impressive. October 25th, Robert Coley, Atlantic City, KO'd him in 1. November 1st, Sterling Benjamin, Lathan, New York, KO'd him in 1. November 13th, Eddie Richardson, KO'd him in 1. That was an unbelievable fight. November 22nd, Conroy Nelson, Albany, New York, was KO'd in 2 rounds. Now let me make one quick correction. November 13th, Eddie Richardson in Houston, Texas, KO'd him in 1. I was at that fight. That's the fight. When he threw a left hook, Eddie Richardson went halfway across the ring. Michael Jack Johnson, September 5th, Atlantic City. That fight was when he threw a beautiful left, I think it was a left hook to the body after he got under a right from Michael Jack Johnson and crushed him like a sack of potatoes. So that's the correction. September 5th, Michael Jack Johnson was crushed with a left hook to the body and then a right to the head. And November 13th, Eddie Richardson was hit with a pulverizing left hook and went across the ring. I just wanted to make that correction. At that point, he had a total bouts of 13 wins, no losses, no draws, and 13 KOs. Now here you see Mike Tyson versus Bone Crusher Smith, who will survive their unification war. Now Mike Tyson had already defeated Trevor Berbick for the WBC lineal title. This was in that tournament. Bone Crusher Smith had won a WBA by KOing Tim Witherspoon. Now, I was at that fight at Madison Square Garden, and Bone Crusher Smith was a last-minute replacement. Tony Tubbs had an issue, and Mike Tyson wasn't even in that tournament at the beginning when you had Pinklin Thomas and Greg Page and Tony Tubbs. There was an issue with Tony Tubbs. Mike Tyson was able to get into the tournament. Bone Crusher Smith got into the tournament. Mike Tyson knocked out Trevor Berbick in 2 rounds. And Bone Crusher Smith KO'd Tim Witherspoon and knocked him out in the first round. And the entire garden was up, they were in an uproar. They couldn't believe it. Because I remember watching Bone Crusher Smith in Times Square Boxing Gym on 42nd Street, New York. And he was sparring with Pinklin Thomas and KO'd him in 1 round. And they knew he was strong. Emil Griffith was training him, but nobody thought he would become heavyweight champion. So here they are, trying to unify the 2 belts. Let's take a look at that fight. He had Bone Crusher Smith. You have Mike Tyson. This is their tail of the tape. Now you can see Bone Crusher Smith was from Magnolia, North Carolina. He was 6'4", 240 pounds. He was 31 years old. Mike Tyson, Catskill, New York, 5'11", 220 pounds. And he was 19 years of age. 19-0 with 19 KOs at this point. Bone Crusher Smith 16-5 with 13 KOs. So this is a correction here. Mike Tyson had already went the distance. I got to double check that. Let's move on. So no, we're not going to move on. We're going to correct this. Mike Tyson had already went the distance with James Quick Tillis. So he had lost one. He went the distance once. Then the very next fight at Madison Square Garden, he faced James Green, Mitch Blood Green. And he went the distance a second time. So then he faces Bone Crusher Smith, and he's about to go the distance the third time. So here you have Mike Tyson versus James Smith. WBC and the WBA Heavyweight Championship is on the line. So you can see right here exactly what's going on. Bone Crusher Smith, his weapons were taken away from Mike Tyson with the pressure. Bone Crusher Smith couldn't use a jab. He couldn't push Mike Tyson off the way Foreman would normally do. So Mike Tyson smothered Bone Crusher Smith's strength and power, stayed on top of him. And the only thing that Bone Crusher Smith could do was hold. You see him grabbing Mike Tyson around the neck, pulling him in with the left shoulder. Mike Tyson putting a lot of pressure on Bone Crusher Smith. And Bone Crusher Smith, like most of Mike Tyson's opponents, began to fold. Now you can look at this cut over the left eye of Bone Crusher Smith. You'll see how that happened in a minute. And how that happened, at the end of the round, Bone Crusher Smith taunting Mike Tyson, letting him know you don't have the power that everybody says you have. Mike Tyson didn't like it. As you can see here, Mike Tyson's head. So Smith had a cut over his left eye. Mike Tyson had a little blood on his head, but no cut. You can figure out how that happened from there. And Mike Tyson was getting frustrated at this point. And meanwhile, you had other heavyweights the size of Smith studying this. Here you have Mike Tyson slipping. A little off balance there. And then you have Mike Tyson refused to be held back. Consistently putting pressure on Smith. This is one of the most boring fights since Greg Page, Tony Tubbs. When they were fighting for the BC strap, in that tournament. And as you can see here, Mike Tyson's the victor. So now he holds a WBA, WBC strap. Now we get in to Mike Tyson and Pinklin Thomas. Angelo Dundee, who happened to be the trainer of Pinklin Thomas at that point in time. Dundee had 7 world champions at this point. Wound up having 8 when Foreman won the title again. But Dundee pulled some strings, got Pinklin Thomas in. And just as quick as he got him in, Mike Tyson got him out in 7 rounds. Just a tune-up, easy work for Mike Tyson. See Mike Tyson throwing a vicious left hook. And that's the punch that got him. Followed up with about 8 punches straight and flattened Pinklin Thomas. Stretched him out complete. Pinklin Thomas had no chance with Mike Tyson. That was easy work for Mike Tyson. Pinklin Thomas had to be escorted to his corner, and then again out of the ring because he forgot how to get out of the ring. Those combinations will do that to you. And here we have Tony Tucker. He's a very good amateur fighter. At this point, he was now the IBF heavyweight champion. When he faced Buster Douglas didn't want to continue. And I believe how that happened, because Mike Spinks had the IBF. In that tournament, there was a stipulation that Butch Lewis had HBO agree to, that at any given time, Mike Spinks could go out of the tournament and have fights if he wanted to. And we all know why that happened. The question is, was it necessary? And Mike Spinks wound up fighting Stefan Tamstead and then Jerry Cooney. And this was just a delay tactic to see what happened to Mike Tyson in that tournament. Because Mike Tyson wasn't in the tournament at the beginning. And once they found out that Mike Tyson got into the tournament, then all of a sudden the contract changed. So here you have Mike Tyson prepared to fight Tony Tucker, Middle is Mike. Now, Mike Tyson was having a little difficulty. He got rocked with an uppercut in the second round. But he had a lot going on in his life with Robin Gibbons and Customato not around. Eventually, he woke up to win a 15-round decision. So that was Mike Tyson's 4th distance fight at that point. Mike Tyson went on to defeat Tony Tucker. Now we get to Mike Tyson and Larry Holmes. This is a passing of the torch, if you will. Larry Holmes was still bitter about that loss to Michael Spinks. And he said at some point Mike Tyson will destroy himself. That was Larry Holmes for you. You got Mike Tyson about to face Larry Holmes. Like I said, at this point, Mike Tyson was a phenomenon. I mean, he was just something that you've never seen before, other than watching films of Jack Dempsey and smoking Joe Frazier. Mike Tyson admired Jack Dempsey so much that he named himself after Mike Tyson's Jack Dempsey's right hand, Iron Mike. That was the name of Jack Dempsey's right hand. And so that became Mike Tyson's name in the ring, Iron Mike. Here you have Larry Holmes as he looked when he was in the IBF champion before losing that title to Michael Spinks and not being allowed to break Rocky Marciano's record. Because at that time, Larry Holmes said on national television at the press conference, Rocky Marciano's brother was in the background. He said after the fight that Rocky Marciano couldn't carry his jockstrap. And then he turned around and said that Las Vegas judges get drunk before fights. And that didn't help him in the second decision. Let's take a look at part 2 and its breakdown coming up.
And there you see the jabs, Tyson throwing fewer, Holmes, of course, throwing many more. And the rules for this one, it is a 12-round fight, incidentally. WBA,
Here we're going to get a blow-by-blow radio call of the Holmes and Tyson fight.
That's not the rule in New Jersey, but they have changed it for this particular fight. So what's left then is to get it on. And to do that, let's go up to the ring announcer, Michael Buffer, for the pre-fight introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to heavyweight history here at Convention Hall in Atlantic City. Now, before the official introductions, I would like to acknowledge a man here in the ring who is indeed a man of heavyweight history. In 1960, he was an Olympic gold medal champion. In 1964, he became the heavyweight champion of the world. In 1974, he again won the heavyweight title. And in 1978, he became the only man in heavyweight history to win 3 world championships. Ladies and gentlemen, the former 3-time heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali, is Joe Cortez. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble. 12 rounds for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Fighting out of the blue corner, he's wearing the white trunks with red trim and weighs 225 3/4 pounds. From Easton, Pennsylvania, his professional record, 48 victories, only 2 defeats, 34 KOs. For 7.5 years, he ruled the division as an undefeated champion with 20 successful defenses. Tonight, he's the challenger. Ladies and gentlemen, the man known as the Eastern Assassin, former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes. And in the red corner, wearing the solid black trunks, weighing 215 3/4 pounds, from Catskill, New York, which is the hometown of the late great trainer of champions, Casamaro. His professional record, a perfect 32-0, 28 KOs, 23 KOs in 4 rounds or less, and 16 knockouts in the first round. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson. Sometimes a great old fighter who appears to be shot can pull together one big effort. Look at Larry Holmes. Look at the jab. Right here. Look at the jab. It's starting to stick out and snap. And the crowd is really into this. Has been from the opening bell. Look at the jab. Our hands are down. It's a couple jab. Watch. This is the crowd now, Murray. It's fascinating how they change all of a sudden. I seem to hear that same kind of reaction, I think, in another fight out in Las Vegas not too many months ago. Oh, yeah, people change their mind because all of a sudden Larry Holmes put up a pretty good fight. Well, we talked about the fact that Holmes one day said he would jab, and the next day said he'd use his right hand and an uppercut. He's done both. Larry got hit by a left hook, Murray, because he stood straight up and wasn't moving and didn't have his hands up. Like here, for example, let's tie his man up.
Now here you have Mike Tyson putting constant pressure on Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes is trying to tie Mike Tyson up. And he goes down. Mike Tyson is too strong. He has too much energy in this point in his life as a younger man for Larry Holmes to be patient with him and try and wear him down. It was going to wind up happening. We're going to have Joe Cortez step in because Cortez has too much respect for Larry Holmes to see this man take this much punishment.
Still 40 seconds left. Still on Quinn Street. And took another big right hand.
And this is another sad page in boxing when you have the traditional passing of the torch.
Tyson just looking for the one shot. 15 seconds left.
Holmes will never make it out of this round.
Huge right hand. That should be it.
Holmes goes down flat, crucifixion style.
It's over. That's all. And what he did was he cut down the old grandfather clock. But we did see something of the old Larry Holmes, which is his great fighting heart, something always underestimated. He might have had a little problem there as well. But I think Larry Merchant really hit him. Mike Tyson is a great finisher.
So Mike Tyson at this point of his career
Tyson did the right thing.
cleaned up the heavyweight division. And there's only one man left standing.
Larry Holmes credit. Larry from the heart. You know, when Larry first said that, he's fighting.
And it will be Michael Spinks.
But he indicated to me he's
Because unfortunately for Spinks, the tactic didn't work. He was trying to wait it out,
you'd have to consider a smart
sidestepping Mike Tyson to see Mike Tyson gets picked off.
There's the first knockdown now. Let's take a look at it.
And unfortunately for him, it didn't happen and the pressure was put on that fight. He had absolutely no choice but to take the fight.
Mike Tyson did
A lot of stipulations were made to try to distract the fight, deter the fight,
set up with the left. And look at that right
but the public wanted it,
right hand, the way it was executed, Barrett, because he threw his
and Spinks had no choice but to take the fight.
hand right.
So you have Mike Tyson getting ready for Mike Spinks.
Gentlemen, you were both given your instructions in the dressing room. Are there any questions by either of you? I both use punch gloves. Good luck to both of you. Could it be that
Mike Cappuccino
here is what Butch Lewis wanted?
was the referee for this fight.
Everybody is smart enough to figure out everything.
Perfect referee for this fight.
I do think that this fight will be decided by two things. How Michael
We all thought Mills Lane would be doing this fight, but
the pressure that
it was Frank Cappuccino's lineup.
this
He gets most of the fights in Atlantic City.
setting his own tempo. And secondly, what happens when Tyson hits him? Because he figures to get hit in this fight somewhere harder than he's ever been hit before. Places they normally have been in the past. watch Tyson jump right into his chest.
Now remember, this is supposed to be the biggest build-up
Michael Spinks.
for one of the greatest fights of the century.
His hands high. Very, very high.
And this is why history is so important. Because I'm going to give you a reason for my statement when this fight is over.
You see the tactics used by Michael Spinks now. He's throwing his jab, but he has to keep those hands extremely high. Watch for the uppercuts too. Tyson landed a left hand in close quarters, and now Cappuccino goes to work again. As we expected, and Spinks ready to mix it up with him. Tyson along the ropes doing damage. Michael Spinks has to keep moving because every shot. Uppercut landed inside, and Spinks went down. It was the left uppercut. I was surprised there was a body shot that put him to the canvas. And that is the first time Michael Spinks has ever been in serious trouble. A right hand right on the chin. 6, 7, 8. He's not going to make it. It's all over.
Now, as you can see,
What happened in that round was that
Mike Tyson had absolutely no problem with Mike Spinks.
natural instinct as a champion and as a winner was to try to fight back. There's a great deal of pandemonium in the ring now. It's lasted a minute and a half. There's a near riot taking place on the apron in front of us. All throughout his career, we see Mike Tyson congratulate Michael Spinks and Tyson trying to show some concern. The pre-fight delay outlasted the fight by about 15 minutes. But apparently, the extra weight was a factor. I'll be interested to hear what Michael Spinks has to say. I'm pretty slow, and here we see Tyson.
Well, you see, they're starting
going to the
with excuses already.
a great uppercut that sent Michael Spinks to the canvas. That was the second
But this fight was a hype job.
and the finishing blow. Here we have another angle. And that beautiful right uppercut caught him perfectly. It seemed to have caught him on the top of the forehead.
Because you can see Michael Spinks doing everything to prevent this fight from happening. Because he didn't want to be put in this situation as he felt he would be. Because you got to understand, Michael Spinks was a light heavyweight. He dominated the light heavyweight division.
What you have just seen was the fourth
But the hype was
heavyweight championship.
that Muhammad Ali, the White Braxton,
Only Jeffries over
was supposed to be similar to Mike Tyson.
Mike Weaver.
And this is why you have to know your history.
08
Because if you don't know any better, you'll fall for the con job.
second destruction you just saw.
Kawi was not Mike Tyson.
Michael
He was 175 pounds.
Mike Tyson.
He blew up to 190.
He has now scored 16.
And then with no condition concern of himself,
And let's go.
he went up and fought George Foreman later on.
Mike, congratulations. Did you have any?
But this is not Mike Tyson we're looking at with Kawi.
Serena told me before I left, I bet both of our person that you knocked him out in the first round. But I thought he was serious and just now he said he was lying. And so I went out and knocked him out in the first round. First one was, I think it was a right hand on top of the head, but he took it well. Then I hit him with a short left hook. With the left uppercut that you told me to throw. And then I threw a right hand to the body, hit him again. And then from that punch, I think what was the right hand on the head. And see, instead of covering up and running, was to fight back, and that's why you finished him. From what I know of human nature, there's only two things that he was capable of.
Listen to Mike Tyson.
Sticking it out or come out and fighting. I knew either he was scared or come out fighting. And that's what I thought. Maybe he was a little jittery, so he came out fighting, giving it his best, hoping for a knockout or a cut or something, because he was fighting very seriously, as you noticed.
Now, what Mike Tyson just said will be my closing statement. He was asked, what did you think he was going to do after the first knockdown? And Mike Tyson said, from what he knows of human nature, it's only two things he is capable of doing. Getting up, fighting it out, or running. Basically trying to survive. And this is perfect for my closing statement. But I want you to take a good look at what's happening in this picture right here. Mike Tyson goes to Spinks. Spinks basically immediately goes to the ropes. Gloves up, no body protection, because that's where the blows are going, to the head. He's turning to the side. This is similar to Max Schmeling and Joe Louis. Because his instinct is to protect his face and his midsection. So he figures by going towards the side, that's going to help him. There's no smarts at this point. It's emotion. You can see Spinks going down. Cappuccino trying to separate Tyson from Spinks. And you can see all defense at this point from Spinks. He offered absolutely no offense. And he goes down. Spinks wanted absolutely no smoke from Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson had no problems with Michael Spinks. None.
What happened? What was all the delay about before? Do you think Michael just didn't want this to get here this quick?
I think he was trying to scrutinize with my brain and make me wait it out. But, I was getting upset. I wanted to go. I'm the kind of guy who's going to fight. Let's get in there and fight. I don't care who comes in first. We come in both at the same time. That's what we planned. We come out together. And so my main objective was to go out there. Like I said, my trainer told me the whole person bet on one round. Now I come back to collect my money, and he said he was joking. He didn't make the bet. It's still a good payday.
There was so much buildup that we can only wish that there was something more interesting or
So let me just tell you this. This fight was a hype job. The fighter and the handlers knows it was a hype job. Because a lot of times, if you hype the fight up enough, you can sometimes make more money than the fight itself, as strange as it sounds. Because of Mike Spinks' background, it was to believe that Mike Tyson may not have had a chance. So you allow Mike Tyson to fight consistently without fighting him, hoping someone shows vulnerability. And at some point, hopefully, you stay undefeated as Mike Spinks would have, and Tyson gets picked off. But it didn't happen that way. And the reason why I do these videos my job as a fight fan is to enjoy fights. The reason why I created this channel, the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series, is because I want to be able to put fighters who belong in this series in there. And that's one of the reasons why we're so passionate as fight fans to get the fighters in the ring. Because when you have a hype job working, unless you're a true fight fan, you won't know the difference. Because if you have any man in you, you will never let another man outshine you. You're not going to go to the press conferences making a whole lot of noise with no intention to fight a man. You are going to go after that man with everything you have to get that fight going. And you don't have that today. When you look at the fighters of the past, they would never let that happen. Henry Armstrong, when he fought Fizzy Zivic, he fought him in 1940, lost his title, tried to regain it in 41, and got knocked out brutally. But then he came back and fought Fizzy Zivic again. He actually got back in the ring with Fisticuffs after that brutal fatality that happened to him. And he defeated Fisticuffs because he could not continue with his life, allowing that to be part of his resume. Only a real man thinks that way. Because Martin Luther King said, if you're not willing to die for something, you're not fit to live. The emotion of a human being comes out when it's tested. And you don't get fights nowadays because a lot of the fighters understand the reality, whether they really have it or they don't. Because if they felt they had it, they would demand the fight. There would be no problem at all. They're raising the bar, raising the prices, coming up with all kinds of stipulations to negate the fight because they don't want the fight. But if you really want to fight, you get in there and fight. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I appreciate it. Salute to Mike Tyson. I just want to say one last thing. The example that I used of Henry Armstrong. Henry Armstrong defended his title almost 20 times in 2 months. And those bullies that you always had a problem with, was always afraid of, he fought about 10 or 12 of them within that time frame. Fought them over and over again. Because that's what a man does. Salute.